Hi, I'm Nikki Lowe, and welcome to the Wisdom for Working Mums podcast show, where I share insights and interviews that support women to combine their family, work, and life in a more successful and sustainable way. Going back to work after having a baby can be tough. For many women, going back to work full-time is financially, emotionally, logistically, and sometimes even physically impossible. So many women end up leaving their jobs and even their careers because they can't find a way to combine their work and motherhood in a sustainable way. And the answer for many women is flexible working. And while the idea might seem like the solution to the working mum juggle, actually asking for and getting your flexible working requests approved is a whole different story. And today I'm joined by Olivia Bath, founder of the Women's Vault, and we're going to be diving into how to negotiate flexible working. Olivia established her business with the social purpose to help more women into leadership roles, including helping professional women return to work after maternity leave or a career break. It was Olivia's own experience of returning to work after maternity leave in a demanding role and the struggle she faced that inspired her to start the Women's Vault. Olivia's background gives her a powerful perspective on the topic of negotiating flexible working, as previously she was a communications and media advisor to CEOs and executives in publicly listed financial services companies, including one of Australia's top 4 banks. Olivia is a highly experienced communication expert, and she's a working mum who has navigated this journey herself. So her insights and expertise give her such a useful perspective on flexible working. So Olivia can really help us to understand the internal and external barriers to negotiating flexible working and what to do about them. I know you're going to love what Olivia's got to share with us today, so I won't keep you waiting any longer. Let's welcome Olivia. So welcome, Olivia. It is fantastic to have you here on the podcast show.
Thank you so much for having me, Nikki.
And we've been trying to organise this for a while, so it's great to finally have you here and talking about this topic, because this is such an important topic for us as women that are trying to combine our work and our lives and motherhood. And I know that I wouldn't be able to do my work without this. So I'm curious about what makes you so passionate about this topic, about negotiating flexible working for us as working mums.
Yeah, well, women want to work. We derive so much personal satisfaction from working. It is such a big part of our identities. And if you think back to your own childhood, you've probably grown up thinking that you can make an impact on the world with your work. And if we don't have women working, everyone suffers. So organizations miss out on diversity of thought, ideas, innovation, empathy, empowerment, all those amazing things that we bring. And obviously, we know that companies with women in leadership, have a stronger ROI and are much more profitable as well. Societies, communities, and the economy misses out as well. And we know from the Mother Pucker research that more flexible working can unlock £55 billion and 51,000 jobs. The challenge is, Nikki, is that there are so many barriers that still exist. We are still working in this patriarchal society. And according to a LinkedIn study that was done last year, more than half of women say that a lack of flexibility at work has either pushed them to either leave or consider leaving their job. Now, there is government legislation that is going to be coming in probably during the autumn of 2023 that will make it easier for any person, including women and mothers, to request flexible working. So it is my mission to help women to overcome those external barriers and their own internal barriers, their lack of confidence, for example, so that they can have a fulfilling career and be confident and both happy inside and outside of work. And that is why I'm so passionate about it. I just want women to believe in themselves and to be able to achieve the things that they have always dreamt about.
Oh, great to hear you say that. And, we share a passion for this, as we know, because we've had many conversations offline. And I'm intrigued about what's your personal experience in navigating this, because I know you've had a big corporate demanding career. Talk to me about how you've navigated this in your life.
Yes. So I negotiated compressed hours with my employer. I was the first person in 40,000 in one of Australia's top 4 banks to do compressed hours. And I did that because I was returning to work, and my manager, who I had a great relationship with, said to me, "Your role is full time." And actually, when I returned to work, my job was a much bigger role. I had an expanded remit, and that was advising the executive team of several banking brands. And I found it really challenging, to be honest. I found myself, for example, answering the phone on my day off in the middle of breastfeeding George and being asked to then uh, go and advise on a very serious commercial issue. And I wanted to be in two places at once. I wanted to be with my son, and I wanted to be doing the job that I loved. And I realized that it wasn't possible to split myself in two. So I had to find a way to make it work. So it was a really steep learning curve for me, and there were a lot of things that I would do now differently, and that really inspired me to create the Women's Vault, where I've brought together my executive advisory background, advising CEOs typically on media and employee engagement issues, and I've dealt with some very serious and very complex issues before. And I bring that background and my communications background and blend that with my coaching. And I bring all of those things together, including my personal experiences, to help women. And I now work with women in companies all around the world. And one of the first pieces that I did around flexible working when I first created the Women's Vault was an economic model. And that was to show women that if you do compressed hours as a flexible working choice, you can earn around £100,000 more per year. And if you can visualize two different lines on a chart, and they start to pull away from each other at around the 10-year point. And so if you're working 4 days a week, you're on that lower line. And if you're working compressed hours, you're on that higher line, and your salaries will start to, and your take home will start to pull away from each other. And this is why I started to champion compressed hours as one way to do flexible working. It also allows a day with your children. And when I'm working with women on this, the penny will often drop, and they'll say to me, "Oh my gosh, I'm working those hours anyway. So why don't I get paid for it? Why am I working all of this overtime, and I'm working on my day off trying to answer Slack messages while I'm in the park with my child, and the whole thing's just stressful?" So this is why I'm so passionate about it, because of my banking background. I'm really interested in financial equity for women, and I also want them to be able to have that time with their child, and to help them to negotiate flexibility so that they can, predict the possible questions or objections that their employer may have. So it's come from my own personal experience, and then a passion for helping other women understand what's possible for them in a flexible work sense. And then having worked with women individually, I'm still in touch with a lot of them, and they'll email me saying, "I'm still doing compressed hours, but guess what? I've just got a promotion, or I've just had another child." So there is so much satisfaction that I gain from those situations too.
That's amazing to hear. And that economic model, I think, sounds so powerful, because both you and I will know that the amount of women that we speak to that go down to a 4-day week, but they're still doing 5 days. So they're actually being paid less, but still doing the same amount of work. And knowing that when you project that longer term, it's almost like the motherhood penalty hits less if you do the compressed hours, by the sounds of it. You see the longer term benefit, which I think is really powerful. And also you saying that clients kind of will contact you further down the line to say I'm still doing compressed hours. And I interviewed an amazing woman for an experience I did last year called their How She Does It experience. Her name's Nicola, and she's now a CEO of an insurance company. And when she returned after her first child, she went back full time, thinking she didn't have a choice. And when her child was about 6 months old, he got meningitis and nearly died. And she went to walk away from her work. And her boss went at the time, "We want to keep you. What will it take?" And so she negotiated compressed hours. And even though her boys are now, they're teenagers, she still does compressed hours. And on her day off, she goes horse riding. And she's like, and she negotiated that as a CEO of a company that is both, it's half American owned and half Indian owned. And she said culturally, those countries don't really support that kind of working. But she was like, it's just what I do. If you want me, that's what I do. And yeah, they accepted it.
That's amazing. That's such an amazing story, and what an incredible role model to have in that organization as well.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it was that horrible experience that gave her almost the confidence. And I know we're going to come on to talk about that, to say, no, this is what is right for me and my family. So what factors, when, if somebody's listening going, okay, right, I'm really interested in this flexible working, I'm really interested to kind of engage my organization in these conversations. I know you help people really think through the factors and the communication around this. So what kind of things, what are the factors that we should be considering?
Yeah, of course. So the first thing is, and actually it sounds like what Nicola has done, which is believe that you are worthy of this request and believe that you can actually ask for this request. The second step is really understanding what existing policies are in place and looking at what your organization does have. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're requesting something different that they're going to necessarily reject it, but it is really helpful to have that policy and understand what it is, and that is really part of your preparedness. And indeed, I would also suggest to women who are thinking about it, look at also what your industry is doing, because organizations are very interested to hear what is happening within your marketplace or within similar industry. So you could say to them, look, for example, this bank or this pharmaceutical company is offering this. Could we consider it here? So really, as you said, engaging them and opening them up to that conversation. Then also really think about what is your ideal situation and be able to articulate it into a sentence. So quite often when I'm working with women around flexible working and I ask them to describe what is their actual request, it can become quite convoluted and quite unclear in terms of, for example, I need to take my son on this day, and then this morning I'll be in this time, and da da da. And it becomes very detailed and quite complex for someone else to follow that in a conversation sense. So it's really clear on what am I asking and how can I synthesize that into one question. Then know the stakeholders that you need to engage and in what order. So I like to play a bit of a game with the women that I work with, which is, whose decision is it? Is it the decision of your manager? Is it the decision of your head of your department, your HR manager, your HR director? Who is going to be giving you the final decision? Because that will then inform how you then engage those different stakeholders. Now, I'm probably making it sound a little bit more complex, but just writing out on a sheet of paper, is it my manager's decision? Yes or no? Is it my HR manager's decision? Yes or no? That will then help inform that engagement. And then be prepared to answer the question. So quite often, or sometimes I will call it an objection, but quite often organizations will say, we don't want to say yes because we don't want to set a precedent. So be ready for those types of questions and how you will answer them. And then think through the logistics in terms of when you need to have your flexible working request approved, particularly if you're managing it around childcare and things like that as well. So think about, I will have a conversation with my manager, and then I will send a follow-up email which actually contains the formal request. And or thinking about, do I need to put in any documents into HR? Sometimes you have to fill in a form. So all of that comes into your preparedness, and it really starts with being being confident within yourself as well. And if you've done the relevant preparation, then that should help you through with negotiating your flexible work request.
Brilliant. There's a really good summary of the things to consider. I love that. Thank you, Olivia. So obviously, there are these external barriers that we've considered about what are your organisation potential objections, what's going on in your industry. But as you've alluded to, we also know that our own internal barriers can influence those conversations. So, how can we boost our confidence? As you said, believing that you're worthy, how can somebody boost their confidence going into those conversations?
Yeah, so three really simple tools that you can use. So obviously, when I'm working with my clients, it's we work on their specific situation and their specific belief systems. But if you're listening to this and just thinking, I just need three quick, easy things. So firstly, there's believing that you're worthy of that request. Doing affirmation, so simple and so effective. You can say things to yourself like, I am worthy of asking this request. I've done hard things before. I've had tricky conversations before. I've navigated them well. I am proud of the efforts that I've made at my work. I'm proud of the preparation that I've done. So you can do those when you're brushing your teeth or when you're waiting for the tube, for example. Really simple. You can take them anywhere, and it really gets you into that positive frame of mind. The second is visualizations. And Nikki, you would probably do a lot of these with your clients too. But really, what I would encourage you to do is think about, what will the room look like that you are sitting in asking your manager, or will you be doing it over a Zoom meeting? What will your body language be like? How will you sound? How will you be open in your tone of voice, for example, in terms of really engaging with that person? How will you ask questions? Will you be leaning forward to ask those questions? So visualizations allows you to create a scenario in your mind that's safe, and it's a safe place for you to experiment and to play and to think about, how can I open up this conversation and how can I close this conversation, for example. So visualization can be a really simple and effective tool, and again, you can take it with you anywhere, and you can visualize from 3 minutes up to 20 minutes where you're actually talking it out loud, and you're really then gaining some muscle memory around the type of conversation and the type of language that you want to use, and rehearsing out loud that request. For example, I'd really like to talk to you today about my request to do flexible working. Is that okay with you? Something as simple as that, just rehearsing that can make you feel so much more confident and comfortable in that situation. And then the final thing is, and it links back to what I was saying earlier, which is really that preparedness. So thinking through, what can I research? What questions can I ask my HR team? What policies can I find? What industry research can I do? And that proper preparation will give you the confidence to ask for your request.
Brilliant. Those are three great tools: the affirmations, visualization, and preparedness. I love that. So if somebody's going into these conversations, obviously, as you've said, being prepared is really useful. What might be some of the things that we have to watch out for? Maybe the red flags that you've either seen other people experience or that you've had to navigate along the way?
Yeah, there's three red flags, Nikki. So the first is that, oh, quite a lot when women will approach me around helping them with their flexible working request, is that they haven't, and this isn't their fault, they haven't necessarily recognized that asking for to work flexibly and to do, for example, compressed hours is actually a change to your contractual agreement with your employer. So you should, after you put in this request and it is approved, you should receive a documentation which is essentially your work contract that has your details around your new working hours, whether you're part-time, job sharing, whatever it might be. And sometimes women will go into the conversation thinking that they're asking for a holiday request or they're asking to go on holidays, and that level of preparation isn't necessarily there. So really understanding the fact that it is a contract, and you have a contract with your employer, and that protects you and it protects them. So be ready to have quite in-depth conversations around what this could look like. Sometimes organizations are really happy and they sign it off and it's a really straightforward process. And hopefully with this new government legislation, that will make it easier as well. But it is important to know that you are asking for a change to your work contract, and so therefore it does require some due diligence around it. The other thing is as I alluded to earlier, really being prepared for the types of questions or objections, such as, we don't want to set a precedent, therefore we're not going to accept your request. Now, thankfully, post-pandemic, I'm hearing of that less and less, but it's still important to know what could be, or to think about what could be the questions that they could ask me, just like you would prepare for a job interview. What could they be asking me, and how can I overcome those questions so that it looks like also I'm interested in how I can continue to do my job and be committed to my job. You're not just focused on, the nursery hours that you need to collect your child. And then the third is actually thinking through, how can I adapt to this flexible work agreement? So usually you do a 90-day trial, and I would recommend for anyone to do a 90-day trial before you actually commit to that request on both sides. And that gives both your manager and your employer and you the option to say, yes, this works, or no, this doesn't. And then you need to really think about, how can I prepare for this new flexible work choice? If you're working part-time, for example, how do I need to restructure my diary so that I'm not answering calls on a Friday, for example? Or if I'm doing compressed hours, how can I be productive but ensure that I don't get burnt out? So it's really thinking through, how can I adapt to your new flexible working world once you are in that situation?
Oh, some brilliant red flags. The piece about you saying that it's effectively a change to your employment contract, I think that is so important. And I've kind of heard a lot of women that may go into it and get in informal agreement, and then with a particular line manager, that line manager moves on, and actually the flexible working is no longer available to them because it wasn't formalized. So I think that's really
Yeah.
important, as you say,
You're
going in.
exactly right, Nikki, and I think both of us would recommend to any person who's requesting to have actually that formal request and that contractual agreement, because you're exactly right. People move on, or the situation changes, and it makes things difficult for everyone.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that you're suggesting the 90-day trial, because actually there's almost this, be careful what you ask for, because it may not. I've had women, I know you will have had as well, Olivia, that clients that they ask for the 4 days because they think that's what they want. And actually it wasn't what they wanted. What they actually did want was more potentially the compressed hours. So giving yourself the opportunity and your employer to try this out. Let's see if it works for both parties, and come back and see what might, if that doesn't work, what else might. I think that's really, really important. I also know that you've got some great success stories of working with clients to negotiate pay rises after returning from maternity leave or a career break. Could you share some insights into how to approach those kinds of conversations, please?
Yes, I'd love to. So if you're thinking about some steps to take with this, do the research again. So arm yourself with the knowledge that you need around what's happening within your marketplace. I would always recommend to clients to call a couple of recruiters or some contacts they know, and just say, look, would you mind spending 10 minutes with me? This is my background. These are the types of things that I've been working on. These are my strengths, so on and so forth. And just say, where would you be positioning me if you were representing me? And that can give you a really good sense of, okay, what is my salary? What should I be asking for? It also gives you the information from an external perspective. And again, you can take that into your organization as evidence as to what the market is showing right now. And also if employees such as yourself are in demand, which is how the market is at the moment. It's understanding the value that you bring and being able to articulate that. So really thinking about your personal brand and how you are able to bring value within your role. And you may need to prepare a business case and, think about how can I provide the information to my employer to demonstrate that I am worth this pay increase. And when you go to then have that conversation, obviously you don't want to spring it you don't want to spring it on your manager. Prepare them that you're planning to have that conversation with them. Rehearse the numbers out loud. So get used to talking about those numbers. And if you feel uncomfortable saying, I feel I should be paid X amount per year, you can always say, I would like a percentage increase of X. And this reflects the fact that I haven't received a pay increase for the last 4 years, for example, which, as we know, when women have been off on maternity leave, that can quite often be the case. So sometimes that feels more comfortable when I'm working with clients. Sometimes we will rehearse and work on actually what is the percentage increase. And then finally, if the answer is no from your employer, we're not able to offer this, then ask, okay, that's cool. 2 things. What can they offer? So are they able to offer coaching? Are they able to offer training? What types of, in-kind benefits are they able to offer you? A gym membership? What can they do that's something to show their reciprocity and their acknowledgement of your request? And then the second thing is, I would be thinking about having a conversation with your manager of, well, what is the timeline? Because this is important to me. And actually, is it that I'm not demonstrating some capabilities? Is it because budgets are tight? And go and ask them to have a conversation with HR, or indeed you can have a conversation with HR to understand that. So is it because they're not offering pay rises across the whole board from an organization perspective, or is it because it's actually you're perhaps not quite fulfilling your role capabilities, so that you've got the right information, and then you can think about, what are my next steps from here? What is my plan from here for my career within this organization?
Brilliant. And what came to my mind as you were saying that is kind of standing very grounded and centered when you're having these conversations. And the concept of, I often talk to my clients about leadership Aikido, and Aikido, their term is expect nothing but be prepared for anything. That actually you've got those questions up your sleeve, that if somebody says, no, I can't do that, you're not thrown off balance. You can stand grounded and go, okay, that's interesting to hear that. What could you do? What would you be able to do? What are the options? So that you've got those questions up your sleeve, that you're not thrown off balance by a response and you feel that, okay, that conversation's now shut down and I can't go anywhere with it.
Yeah, fabulous. Yes, you're exactly right. And as you said, it's an engagement. It's a conversation, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to hear from working mums. It's like I don't know if I'm nosy or curious or just really interested in people's lives. What have been some of your biggest challenges as a working mum, and how have you navigated those?
Oh, so biggest challenges have been around boundaries, and because I love what I do, I'm so passionate about both my advisory, my CEO advisory and communications background, and my coaching, that I find it hard to find my off button sometimes, and my boundaries can slip because of that. But I know that I'm a much better person for everyone when I do have my boundaries, and that includes even things like, I will get a migraine if I'm too stressed. So being able to set those boundaries with myself and sort of self-regulate is really helpful for me, and being able to articulate my own needs and therefore create boundaries around those. And now I love working with women on being able to set their boundaries and to help them to navigate motherhood and career is typically the time that comes up. The other thing for me is mum guilt, Nikki, and gosh, just wanting to tear myself in two so that I could do my job and be with George. And I never expected to love being a parent so much, and I never expected to love being with my son so much. And there were many occasions where I would drop him at nursery and he would be crying and screaming and holding his arms out to me, and I would have to turn and walk the other way and head into the office with tears streaming down my face, and that has continually been quite a tricky thing for me. But one of the things that I have navigated is that if there's any important thing with George's school, I'm always there. And I also take Friday afternoons off to have with him. And it's really present time, Nikki. So it's not him in the background playing while I'm doing work. It's actually we go on adventures, or we might even just bake some muffins. But it's time where I'm calm and present and focused on him and aware of his needs, and I'm not thinking about, or I'm trying not to think about work. I'm not answering emails. My phone goes in the drawer, and it's really time for us. And I've found that incredibly helpful with managing the mum guilt, but also just having some really wonderful moments together. And it's just our time. It's just for the two of us. And that's been really special for me.
Oh, I love that you've created that and learned on the journey of how important those boundaries are. So we've obviously covered a lot in this, but if there's just one thing that you want somebody who's listening to our conversation to take away, what would you want that to be?
I really want women to believe in themselves, Nikki. When women believe in themselves, when we back ourselves, the most amazing things happen. Opportunities arise for work, to work on interesting projects. We get asked to mentor someone. We have the courage to apply for a new job. We have the courage to walk away from an employer when we're not happy and decide that actually we are going to raise our children full time for a period. So I work with women and organizations so that we can take a double-pronged approach to enabling equality, and that includes women in leadership roles and closing the pay gap so that we can overcome the internal and external barriers, a lot of which we've talked about today, Nikki. And there is an argument out there that women shouldn't have to fix themselves. However, my perspective on that argument is that the system that we are in is not going to change quickly, I'm afraid. And I wouldn't want women to miss out on issues like imposter syndrome that typically have started in childhood, yet they are affecting us because we're working in male-dominated environments or we're working in competitive workplaces. So it takes time to create that change. And I do feel that if women can believe in themselves, then we're halfway there, and they can then have conversations with their employers around this is how we need support, that we can help guide how we want workplaces to be shaped, and we need confidence to do that. We need confidence to be able to talk to CEOs and tell them what we need, and it might be a 30-minute conversation over coffee that sparks something new in your organization and helps everyone. So start with yourself and see how you can have impact from a broader perspective. And my mission is really to help women to have that self-belief, have that confidence, and to really quieten that imposter voice that has been haunting us for a long time.
So beautifully said, Olivia. I love that. So how can people find out more about you and your work? If you want to give us any of the links, and I'll make sure they're in the show notes for you.
Thank you. So on LinkedIn, I'm Olivia Bath. On Instagram, it's at The Women's Vault. And then my website, actually, which is undergoing some changes at the moment, but if you're interested, you can head to thewomensvault.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your wisdom, Olivia. It's always a joy to talk to you.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this episode of Wisdom for Working Mums, please share it on social media and with your friends and family. I'd love to connect with you too. So if you head over to wisdomforworkingmums.co.uk, you'll find a link on how to do this. And if you love the show and really want to support it, please go to iTunes, write a review and subscribe. You'll be helping another working mum find this resource too. Thanks so much for listening.